Okay, that sound means you're back on the air with the restaurant brokers, Eric and Robin Gagnon, and it's time for our restaurant reality segment where we give you the full and unbridled truth about the business. Today, we have been talking with some industry experts on the topic of leasing. Eric, I don't think there's any topic that we can take on where the reality of the business hits home any harder than this one.
Robin, you're absolutely right on this. There's so many ways for the reality of this business to bite someone's on a lease. I mean, people see a sign on the side of the road, and they go out and negotiate a lease on their own. Then they're stuck with a 5-year, sometimes a 10-year agreement, and it's a David and Goliath situation. Landlords have armies of lawyers that have been drafting clauses to their benefits for years. A naive restaurant owner comes in and signs the lease after having an attorney do a review without ever considering the business terms of that. Any example come to mind?
Oh, where do I start? Okay, so just 2 weeks ago, I listed a restaurant for sale, and I asked for the lease copy, which I received. I reviewed it. It was pretty standard. There was no cap on her cams, and she called me in a panic because she got a new cam statement. She only has like an 1,800 square foot space, but her cams were doubling. And she said, "What can I do about it?" And I said, "You can do absolutely nothing. As I read your lease, there's no protection." She said, "Well, when I signed the lease, they said, oh, well, this year that you're signing on for is a little high, but they'll go down." And I said, "Well, if I were representing you at that time, I would have gotten that in writing and attached it to the lease. I also would have put some maximum caps that the cams could have gone up on. But after the fact, there's nothing we can do. I can try and sell the business for you and hope to get that new party when we go back in with the landlord some modifications."
That's correct. Last night, I had the same instance happening to me. One of our very long-time clients called me up and he says, "Eric, I got a big problem. I just got a certified letter from the landlord that our cams are doubling. This is a very small business. It's a little bakery sandwich shop, and their cam went from $400 to $800 a month. Their rent alone is $1,000 only. So the cam's it's 80% of their rent." And he says, "We're going to get together with other tenants, and we're going to try to see what happens." And I said to our client, to our longtime friend as well, I said, "Have you read your lease? I negotiated your lease originally." He said, "Yes, you did." I said, "I believe there's a clause in there that your cam cannot go up more than 4 or 5% a year." He says, "Hold on." He pulls up his lease. He said, "Oh, you're right." He said, "This is wonderful. So they cannot do this to me." He said, "That's correct. So you may want to remind the landlord of that. But that's why you need to read your lease and have somebody helping you to make sure that looks for the pitfalls versus the language." I mean, talk about the difference between a lawyer and a broker in this situation.
Well, here's the thing, because a lot of people will say to me, "Oh, well, I'm okay because I have my lawyer look at the lease." But the problem is your lawyer is only focused on the legal terms of the lease. He is going to catch what the landlord can do to you and make sure that it's consistent and that there's fair and due process if terms of that lease get violated in some way by the tenant. But he is not attuned to the business consequences of the lease. For example, we always look at cams and try to get a cap on them. We always look at out clauses because we don't approach any business assuming that it's going to last forever and everything's going to go well. You've got to know what's the transferability of the lease. We have leases that people have no transfer language in there whatsoever. And when they get ready to sell, they're tremendously affected by that.
Correct. There's so many things aside from the language. I mean, a lawyer could be good for looking at certain things like language of it, but does 5% a year, is it a good or bad increase? I mean, ask that to your attorney and see what the question is and see what the answer is. Does he know what it is? I mean, right now, the National Restaurant Association is predicting a rate increase of restaurant sales increase about 3.8% a year annually. 3.6%. If you look at Georgia, it's going to be about 3.8%. So if you have a 5% a year increase in rent, do the math. That is not working. Like Wayne said earlier today on the show, you're going to have to start increasing the price of your hamburgers for no good reason, just to cover your rent, not even to make more money. It makes no sense. Your lawyer does not know these things.
Well, and the other thing, I have another restaurant under contract right now, and it's set for closing. And again, we didn't negotiate the lease. We're working on the back end of it. But I checked the lease language, and I asked the seller, "Do you realize what you've signed here?" And she said, "No, what do you mean?" And I said, "Well, your landlord has a first lien on all of your property. That means you cannot transfer that refrigeration that you purchased, that equipment in your kitchen that you purchased, those chairs in your dining room. He essentially controls the outcome of every piece of property." And I asked why on earth they would sign such a thing. And she said, "Well, we just we thought we'd always be in business. And what does it mean? And I said, it means that I have to get this landlord very, very, very comfortable with this new guy. And I also have to get the new guy to be comfortable with this language because he's not willing to budge on this particular tenant. Essentially, it's a showstopper. The control is all in your landlord's hands. And why would you want to do that? I want to remind everybody, too, because this is an important point. When you're looking for a space, you ride down the street and you see this for lease space and you fall in love with it, don't call that number. The first thing you need to do is call someone else. Call a restaurant broker to call that number, because that number on that shopping center belongs to the landlord's representative. And who pays him? Who pays him, Eric? The landlord pays him.
The landlord pays them, Robin.
Who is he working for? He's working for the landlord. And we've got a whole chapter in our book, Appetite for Acquisition, called The Landlord is Not Your Friend. You do not want to go up against a landlord in a situation like this without some people who have seen it before. And I don't even talk about using us. Use anyone. Just read our book. Do anything. But you need to get some expertise, knowledge, and information from somebody external to the deal, not the landlord or the landlord's representatives, because they're not working on your behalf. And that's a critical point.
Robin, you read my mind. I was about to say the exact same words. That's pretty scary. But also, one thing you have to understand is that the landlord is not your friend. You're calling over there. Another myth, a lot of people says, well, if I hire a restaurant broker or another broker that is knowledgeable in this, it's going to cost me more money. I'm going to have to pay more rent. That is absolutely not true, people. The landlord gets paid. Guys like Alan that was on the show today are getting paid a set fee by the landlord for their percentage or square foot fee, and they are more than happy to share with another broker. So there's no more money. Alan will make just the same amount of money whether he has another agent or he does it himself. So there's no savings for you to call the landlord directly. If anything, there's more risk. And if you heard Alan today, he said a lot of people call him and he doesn't even like what you bring to the table unless you have a package. So if you come to somebody with knowledge, they put the proper package together, it makes his life a lot easier. Actually, it makes him a lot more willing to work with you and give you a shot at this fabulous space that you think is going to be the right space for you. If you have somebody that will work on your behalf that speaks the same language, understands what his needs are to get the space.
And that's exactly right. And that's how we have so many restaurant listings for lease on our website. We have a program where the landlords come to us and on a non-exclusive basis, they put their restaurant for lease spaces on our website. And why do they do it? Well, they know, first of all, that we have so much more restaurant-specific traffic coming. So all those tenants are coming to us. But secondly, they would rather have us work with those tenants, pre-qualify them, package them. We'll help you get your business plan together, all the different elements that you need in order to put you before the landlord, because that first impression is the first chance you have to say, I'm a serious player and I know what I'm doing. And we're not going to let you put your package in front of the landlord until you're ready. And it speaks to your financial qualifications, your background and experience. We want you to have your menu. We want you to have looked at the demographics and looked at the competition, all those elements. So when a landlord gets a package from We Sell Restaurants, they know it's wrapped up. These guys are dialed in and they know what they're doing.
That's right. So please do your homework, seek some help. And we have so many restaurants for lease space. Go to our website at WeSellRestaurants.com. Look at our spaces. And I wish we had more time today, but I think that's all we got for today, Robin.
That's right. Remember, join us online at WeSellRestaurants.com and on this radio station every single week. This is Eric and Robin. We are the Restaurant Brokers.